Okay? So imagine you're sitting at your desk one random Tuesday morning, coffee in hand, just trying to get through your emails, and your phone buzzes. It's your mom. You pick up, say hello, and before you can even finish that word, she says, "You owe us $200,000, and we want it back." You'd think that was a joke, right? Like, maybe she's messing around. Maybe she saw something funny online and this is her version of humor. But Ashley didn't laugh,
So this is
because her mom
1080p,
wasn't
60
joking.
frames per second
Not even a
with
little
a
bit.
rock
And what
steady
happened next
enabled.
over the following weeks and months is the kind of story
Currently
that
we
makes
are
you
in
question
Sheikh
everything
Zayed
you
in
think you know
Dubai,
about family,
the
love,
famous
and
business
what parents
district
actually
here
owe their
in this
children.
country.
So stay with me, because
This is during the
this one
lockdown.
is something else. Ashley grew up in a pretty normal-looking house in a mid-sized town in Ohio. From the outside, the family seemed fine. Dad worked in logistics, mom stayed home, they had a decent car, went to church on Sundays, did backyard barbecues in the summer. Normal stuff. Ashley was the middle child, older brother named Derek, younger sister named Maya. And by all accounts, she was the responsible one. The one who got good grades, didn't cause drama, cleaned up after herself, and tried really hard not to be a burden. That last part matters. That word, burden, because it was a word she heard a lot growing up. Not always out loud, but it was there. Hanging in the air of that house like smoke you can't see, but you can definitely feel in your lungs. Her parents weren't monsters. Let's be clear about that. They fed her, clothed her, put a roof over her head. But love in that house came with a price tag that nobody told Ashley about until she was old enough to be handed the bill. Small things started early. Her dad would say things like, "Do you know how much your school supplies cost?" when she asked for something small. Her mom would sigh dramatically at the grocery store and look at Ashley like she personally caused the inflation. By the time Ashley was 12, she already felt like she was somehow in debt to her own parents for the crime of being born and needing things. But she pushed through it. She got a part-time job at 16, started paying for her own clothes, her own toiletries, eventually her own phone bill. She was proud of that. She thought, okay, I'm pulling my weight, this will make things easier. And for a while it did seem to help. The sighs got less frequent. The comments dialed back. And when Ashley got into college on a partial scholarship and took out student loans for the rest, her parents actually seemed proud. Her mom cried at the graduation party. Her dad shook her hand, he wasn't a hugger, and said, "You did good, kid." Ashley held on to that moment for years, literally years, because it didn't come around very often. Now here's where things start to shift. And I need you to pay attention here, because this is the part where you realize the story you thought you were hearing is actually a completely different story. Ashley graduated, got a job in marketing, moved to a city about 2 hours from home. She was making decent money, not rich, but comfortable. She had her own apartment, was paying off her student loans, building her savings. She'd call her parents every Sunday, visit on holidays, send birthday cards, the whole thing. She was, by any measure, a good daughter, and for about 3 years after graduation, things were fine. Not warm exactly, but fine. Manageable. Then her dad got laid off, and every single thing, changed. It started with small asks. Could she cover their electric bill this month? Just this once, they'd pay her back. She said yes. Then it was the car insurance. Then it was groceries. Then her mom called crying, saying they might lose the house and could Ashley just help with the mortgage, just for a couple months while Dad found something new. Ashley said yes again, because what do? That's your parents. You help. So she helped. She cut back on her own spending, stopped going out, meal prepped everything, and every month she'd send a few $100 home, sometimes more. This went on for almost a year, and in that year, Ashley started to feel something she couldn't quite name at the time. It wasn't just financial stress. It was this creeping feeling that no matter how much she gave, it was never quite enough. Her mom would call midweek now, not just Sundays. Her dad would get on the phone and sort of guilt trip her in this very passive way, like, "Well, I guess we'll figure something out." After she'd already sent money that month, she started dreading her phone, started letting calls go to voicemail, started feeling a knot in her stomach every time she saw her mom's name on the screen. And then one day, completely out of nowhere, her mom called and said those words. The ones I told you about at the beginning. You owe us $200,000, and we want it back. Ashley actually laughed, out loud, not because it was funny, but because her brain genuinely could not process it as a real sentence. She said, "Mom, what are you talking about?" And her mom said, "And I want you to really hear this." She said, "We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, housed you, drove you to school, paid for your activities. Your father and I calculated it all out. It comes to $200,000. And now that you have a job and you're doing well, it's time to start paying it back." Ashley sat there in complete silence, and her mom took that silence as an opening to keep going. She started listing things: the cost of diapers when Ashley was a baby, the pediatrician visits, the school shoes, the class trips, the birthday parties. She had actually genuinely sat down with a notebook, or maybe a spreadsheet. Ashley wasn't sure, and added up the cost of Ashley's entire childhood, and then presented it to her daughter like an invoice. Now at this point, you might be thinking, okay, this is clearly a manipulation tactic. Ashley should just say no and hang up. And that's a very reasonable thing to think if you've never been in a family where guilt is the primary currency. Because Ashley didn't just hear her mom's words. She heard 26 years of being made to feel like a burden. She heard every sigh at the grocery store. Every "do you know how much this costs?" Every sacrifice her parents reminded her of. And a part of her, a really deep, painful, conditioned part of her, wondered if maybe they were right. Maybe she did owe them something. Maybe this was just how it worked. She told her mom she needed time to think. Her mom said, "Okay, but don't take too long." And that was the end of the call. What happened in the next 72 hours was a breakdown, a reckoning, and ultimately, a decision that would blow the whole thing wide open. Ashley called her brother Derek first. She told him everything. And Derek, bless him, got very quiet on the phone and then said, "They called me too. 6 months ago. I've been sending them money every month and not telling anyone." Ashley's stomach dropped. Then she called her younger sister Maya, who was still in college, and Maya started crying immediately and said, "Mom told me I need to start thinking about how I'm going to pay them back when I graduate." So, it wasn't just Ashley. This wasn't a random demand born out of desperation. This was a plan. A deliberate, thought-out plan that her parents had applied to all 3 of their children. Each kid approached separately. Each kid given the bill. Each kid kept in the dark so they wouldn't compare notes. And Ashley realized this had been building her whole life. The comments, the sighs, the constant reminders of what things cost. It was never just venting. It was grooming. It was her parents slowly, consistently, methodically teaching their children that love was a transaction, that childhood was a loan, and that one day, the bill would come due. Ashley didn't send any money that month, and the calls started, 1 or 2 the first day. Fine, expected. She let them go to voicemail, then 4 or 5 the next day, then 8, then 12. By the end of the first week, she was getting 20 calls a day between her mom and dad, sometimes calling back to back, sometimes calling from different phones when she didn't pick up. The voicemails started out calm. "Ashley, we just need to talk," and then got more emotional, more desperate, more accusatory. "After everything we've done for you, we sacrificed our whole lives. Your father's health is suffering because of the stress. If you loved us, you wouldn't do this." She showed her phone to a friend one afternoon who literally counted the notifications. 62 missed calls in a single day. 62. And Ashley, who had spent her entire life trying not to be a burden, trying to do the right thing, trying to be the responsible one, sat on her apartment floor and just cried. Not because she was going to pay them the money. She'd already made that decision, she wasn't. But because she was grieving something. She was grieving the version of her parents she'd always hoped they were. The ones from the barbecues and the Sunday church and her dad's awkward handshake after graduation. She was grieving the family she'd tried so hard to hold on to, even when it kept costing her pieces of herself. She started therapy around this point, and her therapist, who sounds like an absolute rock star of a human being, helped Ashley see something that took months to fully land. She helped Ashley understand that what her parents did wasn't love with rough edges. It was something called conditional love, taken to an extreme, and that the debt Ashley felt her whole life wasn't real. It was manufactured. Parents choose to have children. Children don't choose to be born. The food, the shelter, the school shoes, that's not a gift with a receipt. That's just being a parent. That's the job. Ashley wrote her parents a letter, not an angry one, not a revenge fantasy, just a clear, honest letter where she said she loved them. She was not going to pay the $200,000. She was not going to continue sending monthly payments, and that if they wanted a relationship with her going forward, it would need to look very different. She mailed it. Physical letter in an envelope with a stamp. Because she wanted it to be real. She wanted it to exist somewhere outside of a phone screen. Her mom called 44 times the day the letter arrived. Her dad left a voicemail that was just complete silence for 2 minutes and then a hang-up. Derek eventually stopped his payments too. After the 3 siblings finally had a long, honest conversation about everything, Maya finished college, graduated, and sent her parents a card but no money. The 3 of them formed this little unofficial support group, texting each other, checking in, making sure nobody caved under the pressure alone. Because the calls didn't stop for a long time, it took months of Ashley not answering, not responding, staying firm before the frequency started to drop. And here's the part of the story I want you to sit with for a second, because this is where it gets really real. Ashley told her story online, shared it anonymously at first on a forum, just looking for perspective. And the response was overwhelming. Thousands of people responded saying they recognized this dynamic. Thousands. People who'd been handed bills for their childhoods. People whose parents kept a running tally of every sacrifice ever made. People who'd spent decades feeling like they owed their family something just for existing. Ashley was shocked. She thought her family was a weird outlier. Turns out, this is more common than most people want to admit. It just usually stays behind closed doors because the shame of it on both sides keeps everyone quiet. She eventually shared her story publicly, with her name and her face, and the reaction was even bigger. People were angry on her behalf in a way she'd never experienced. Strangers sending her messages saying you don't owe them anything. And she said in an interview that reading those messages over and over again was actually part of her healing. Because she'd spent so long with only one voice in her head about what she owed, and suddenly there were thousands of other voices offering a completely different answer. Her parents, last she shared publicly, had dialed the contact back significantly. There was no big reconciliation, no tearful phone call where they admitted they were wrong. Life isn't always a movie. Sometimes people don't change. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is accept that and move forward anyway. Ashley still holds out some hope. She's that kind of person. She can't help it. But she's not waiting on it. She's built a life that doesn't depend on their approval. She's in therapy, she's got her friends, she's got her siblings, and she's got something she didn't have before any of this happened. She's got herself. And the reason I wanted to tell you Ashley's story, really tell it all the way through without skipping the hard parts, is because I think a lot of us walk around with versions of this weight. Maybe not a $200,000 invoice. Maybe it's subtler than that. Maybe it's a parent who reminds you every Christmas of how much they gave up. A family member who keeps score in ways you didn't even know was happening. A relationship where love always seems to come attached to something you're supposed to give back. And if that's you, if something in Ashley's story made your chest tighten because you recognized it, I just want you to hear this clearly. You did not choose to be born. You did not sign a contract before you arrived in this world. Growing up, needing things, being cared for, that is not a debt. That is childhood. And no invoice, no matter how many years it took to compile, can change that. Ashley's parents made 60 calls in a single day trying to reach her. And she didn't pick up. And the world didn't end. Her parents didn't disappear. Life kept going. And slowly, quietly, in the space that opened up, when she stopped picking up every call and stopped sending every payment and stopped carrying a debt that was never really hers to carry, Ashley started to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Light. Just light. Like someone finally cracked open a window in a room that had been sealed shut for 26 years. That's her story, and I think it's worth every single minute you just spent listening to it.